Hi, I'm Wendy from So Wendyful, and I bring you snippets from my stitchery and sometimes from my travel. And today we're doing it in the stitchery, and we're going to make a super cozy cushion out of an Orphan block. Look, I've been making these very random house blocks for quite some time now. I've used freezer paper to make them, and I thought it was time to use these house blocks instead of leaving them up on my design wall. You can use any size block. If you need to make it bigger, then you put on a border, and if you need to make it smaller, well, you can cut your block up if you like, but I don't recommend it. I recommend choosing a block that is nearly the size of the cushion that you want and making it larger and framing it with a border, and that's what we're going to do today. And we're also going to be putting in a hidden zip. So I've started this tutorial demonstration doing the zip first, because that is usually the hardest part. I have found in my experience that people will get a bit afraid of doing. So I'll just show you how simple and straightforward it is. You just take your time, use lots of pins, and don't prick yourself like I have done a number of times. Now, if you want to use this as a sew along, I have recorded key moments, kind of like an index, down in the description box below. So if you, for instance, want to stop and repeat a certain technique that I've used, particularly for the zip, then you can go backwards and forwards. If you're happy with putting in a zip, you can just go zooming right across to where I've put the borders in. Now, I've kind of kept it quite loose about sizing, because I just really wanted to show you the technique of how it is quite simple to take an Orphan block and make it into a cozy cushion for your sofa. Thanks for watching. I do hope you enjoy this. I'd love to hear if you use it as a sew along, and please subscribe and give us a like, and we'll get right into it, shall we? Right, this is the previous cushion I've made. It's a test cushion, and I've used Liberty quilting cotton for the borders and for part of the block and for the back. I have made the borders on the front 3 inches wide, and then put it together to give me an idea of how much I needed to cut for the back. And that was a generous rough estimate. Now I've cut out the 2 pieces for the back, and we're ready to iron it. I'm going to iron one down, one side, which will be the bottom. I folded it over 1/4 inch, and I'll iron that down. And this one will come from the top of the cushion down, and the zip will be hidden in here. So I'll just do a little demo of what the zip will look like. This one, I'm going to be folding it over a good inch and a half, just for demonstration. You can go a little bit, we might go a little bit shorter. So that ends up actually going over like that, and this one will be up and under here, so you won't see the zip, and that'll stop that exploding cushion issue that you always have. Okay, so I have ironed everything down. This is the bottom, so that is about 1/4 inch. This is the top. I've made it a very generous 1.5 inches. If you wanted to go less, you could, if you're confident enough, and if you want to keep that, tidy up that seam, you could, but because it's the inside of the cushion, no one's going to see, so I'm happy to leave it as that. This is my zipper. I'm using one that's a zipper by the yard, so that's why that pin's there, to stop me from accidentally going zoom and taking it off. Now, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I will take that off, because I'm sure I'm not going to fiddle with that zip and zoom the tab off. I'm going to line it up like that, and I'm just going to show you what it looks like with the front, which we will do next. You might think I'm doing this back to front, but I wanted to get this tricky part out of the way in this tutorial first. But before we commit anything to the sewing machine, let's just double check so that we have got enough room top and bottom here. So the borders on, so I'll put a border up here, and I'll put a border down here, and then I'll put one here, matching it up nicely, 1/4 inch seam, and one here. Okay, so now you see we've got plenty of room on our back to tidy things up once we've got the zip in, so we don't have to worry about any mistakes. Although I never make mistakes, do I? Yes, I do all the time. So that's just the way it happens. Right, okay, so first let's go back to pinning this in. Now, if you looked on YouTube or Facebook or wherever and looked up tutorials for how people put in zips, you see people doing it without pins and just zooming and everything is straight. But if you're a bit of a wonky sewer like I am, I just want to make sure everything is in the right place. And I'm just eyeballing it because I know that we're going to be going in quite a lot either side when we do the final trim up. Alright, so that's all pinned up nicely. No, I'm going to put another pin here because it's not nicely, is it? And then we'll take it to the sewing machine and stitch it in. Get that there. So that's all good. That's looking good, isn't it? So now I can get as close to, I want to get as close to the zipper teeth as I can. As I get close to the zipper head here, I'm going to stop. I'm going to lift this up high and I'm going to open up the zipper. And then pop this all down and we've got a free run to the end. That's one side done. Wasn't too bad, was it? Okay, back to the cutting board and we've got this nicely set in now. Looking good. So now we are going to pin this side, which is the top of the back, and we're going to pin it on here and then stitch it. So I'm just going to twirl everything around. Actually, I'm going to just twirl this around this way. And here we go. So it's a stitching line there, and I'm going to pin it just a little bit over like that. Keeping this will keep it all in the place you want it to be while you're sewing. You won't need to take these pins out. Now we have pinned the flap side. Eagle eyes would have spotted that when I did this section, it was a little bit smaller than the original. Well, that's because I had to redo the whole zipper again because not only did I have my camera off, but I pricked my finger as well. Start off by lining it up. Now we make sure we get the bottom part stitched underneath, so we'll be going reasonably close to it, to the edge. And we put the pin here. We've got to watch out for that metal thing. I'll show it to you in a mo. So just under here you can feel the bottom of the zipper, that metal, but we'll be super careful that we don't get anywhere near that. So down to there. Keep the needle down, lift the foot. Sorry about that wiggle. And then we're coming over, you can feel the edge of the zip down here and across. And then lift and turn, needle down, lift and turn. Needle. Okay, now I've lined the seam guide here with this. Just take that pin out. And now we stitch downwards using the seam guide, taking the pins out as we get close to them. Right, now before we get too far, we're going to move that. There's a seam here. We're okay for now. Okay, now we put the needle down. We're going to open up that seam, lift the foot up. You might have to move your seam guide out of the way. Get that right out of the way down there. Foot down and stitch. Carry on. Put your seam guide down so you can sew a nice straight line. And then we're getting towards the end. We are going to put up, turn around. Be careful of that zip top. Go down a little more. So here we are, back from the machine, and doesn't that look lovely? And we can open it up and pull the zipper open, and there we go. Close it, and on the back, this is what it looks like. Now let's go on and get that front ready. Right, now it is time to add the border. And we are going to put top, bottom, and two sides. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Do the top and the bottom, just pin it and stitch 1/4 of an inch either side, and then we'll come back and we'll iron it. Okay, so we've stitched the top and the bottom and given it a nice press, and we are now going to pin the sides on, the sides of the border on, and do exactly the same. Now you'll see we're not quite matching all the way down. You can't see actually, can you? So down here we're not quite matching, but it's fine. We can trim it up. Isn't it better to have too much fabric and trim than too little and have to deal with the consequences of that? and then this way we're going to actually do it this way. I'm going to turn it around, and I'll let that overhang be up here. It doesn't really matter, whichever way you want to pin it. Oops, that looks like it's not quite lined up there. That's fine now. Pin it. And we'll go off and stitch it. I'm just going to show you this, how close we got to. We've run out of thread at the top, and that's as far as the thread got before it ran out. Phew. So that's great. We're just going to trim these bits off here, trim the bottom straight, and just straighten the top. And then we are going to put a very thin wadding batting interfacing. It's a bit fluffy on one side, and you can iron it on the other side. We're going to cut some of that, and we're going to iron it onto the back, and then we're going to do a little bit of quilting. That's all trimmed up nicely, and then we will cut this to size. You could use quilt wadding for this if you want. I just didn't want a big puffy cushion. I just wanted something to give me a little bit of stability while I did a little bit of quilting or top stitching or whatever you like to call it around the house. I'm just going to actually cut this on. Just be careful when you iron, if you're using this kind of iron-on stuff, that you put a little cover on your ironing board so the sticky doesn't go on your ironing board, and then you use that when you turn it upside so the sticky doesn't go on your iron and make it all dirty. Right, I am now going to go and iron that on. So that's all nicely ironed on now, and as you can see, it's not very thick. I didn't want it too thick. I just wanted something to give me a bit of stability when I did my quilting top stitching. I've changed out my presser foot for a 1/4 inch one that has a seam guide, and that just runs along the edge and makes it easier to line up and sew straight. As you know, I don't sew very straight at all, so we're just going to go wherever our fancy takes us on this block, and you do what you want to do, and it will come out really nicely, I'm sure. And just for fun, I'm going to machine embroider a couple of caps sitting on the doorstep. Okay, so, right, put this down. We're going to, look at my little cats. I think they look cute. Okay, now we're going to be putting that on and pinning it and then sewing it. But before we do that, we need to open the zip. Right, now we're ready to sew. I'm going to line the edge up with the edge of my presser foot. That gives me about a 3/8 inch seam. And off we go. Okay, I'm going to take it slowly here over the zip part. Make sure we port everything in, and I will also back tack as well. them into these corners. I'm going to back tack as well. Stitch here. Okay, all stitched up now. I'm just trimming them up. Okay. Wide, and now we can turn it into a beautiful cushion. Now, doesn't that look cute? Doesn't that look perfect? I love my little cats there. That's looking good. There. To there. It's looking good there and there. So we'll go and give it an iron. The cushion's all stuffed now and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. And it matches the first trial one that I did a wee while ago. Thank you so much again for sticking with me through this cushion saga and some of the previous freezer paper blocks that I've done in the past. I really appreciate it. I'd love you to subscribe or give us a thumbs up and leave a comment on anything that you found interesting or would like to see a little bit more of, or perhaps I hadn't been clear enough in some of the explanations, because I'm really happy to do another little short snippet to show you through things. And just remember, if you're really happy with a section on the cushion, perhaps you're experienced putting in the zip. So just skip to the next ones, use the key moments as an index and skip to wherever you want. And likewise, skip forward and back if you're using this as a sew along. But thank you again and we'll see you next time.